Duplin County is located in southeastern rural North Carolina, very typical of a rural county, large in agriculture, large in tradition and history. We're typical of today's rural county, I think, because our poverty rate is high, our unemployment rate is extremely high. 1/3 of the citizens in Duplin County earn a median income of $16,679 or less. And yet another third neither has completed high school nor earned any college credit or a college degree.
The only way to get out of poverty is to replace it with prosperity. So that is the reason why we all say we're going to do whatever it takes to give every child the opportunity. Now, we're not saying every child have to go to 4-year college. That's not what we're saying. But what we're saying is their choice. We're tired of choosing for them or trying to tell them what to be or what not to be.
Good morning, my babies. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, y'all have a good day.
And one thing we believe is that when you engage them in the conversations about college, about the future, usually it's telling them about it. But when you show it to them, they have a different interpretation of what that truly means to them. It is not the rigor that scares our children. It is just the perception that college is beyond reach. So we feel like to create a college-going culture, we have to start early and give them enough years to research, explore what in life they want to be. And I think the neat thing about all of this is that students are now saying, wow. So really, I really don't have to be a millionaire to be on campus. Or I really don't have to be that so-called genius to be on campus. But what we've done for so long is to deprive them of that opportunity. And public school is not designed for that. Public school is to take you where you are, develop your talent, and create opportunities for your talent to flourish. That's all. Whether they want to go to a career or they want to go to college, but what we're telling them is you got to have preparation beyond high school. They all cannot go to Harvard or Yale or Miami, but none of our kids belong to the street now.
Opportunity. We can no longer afford pockets of excellence. We want to make sure that every child in Duplin County experiences what early college students are experiencing. That's why we decided to scale up, because we think it would be an injustice to deprive any child. Austin, for your leadership in encouraging college for all students, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. There were paparazzi. We didn't know what was going on. Thank you. Thank you, Austin. Next, we honor Kyle Pace, who has been training teachers to use technology since he was a student himself. He notes, as educators, we can get pretty narrow-minded and pretty fast being in our own little building all the time. With social networking, you can get fresh viewpoints and varying perspectives. It opens up your thinking. Now an instructional technology specialist for the 17,500 student Lee's Summit, Missouri School District, Kyle has worked this year to train teachers to use many new technologies, Google Apps for Education, Chromebooks, Gmail, and Google Docs, among others. In July 2011, Kyle was one of 50 educators chosen to participate in the Google Teacher Academy in Seattle. And last September, he was honored at the first BAMI Awards and recognized as one of the top 100 educational bloggers, tweeters in the country. You gotta love that. He was also one of 10 educators chosen in November to participate in the first ever Sony Education Ambassador Program. According to Eric Scheninger, the principal at New Milford High School in New Jersey, this is a quote, "Kyle is a practitioner. He works with teachers and exposed to the budgetary realities that schools are faced with, as well as administrators that embrace a vision for tech integration and those that are resistant. That allows him to be a very powerful resource." Kyle, for your leadership in leveraging the power of ed tech and social networking, we honor you. For Jeffrey Plattenberg, every part of a school should support student learning, from the science curriculum to the heating system. As the Assistant Superintendent for Support Services for Loudoun County, Virginia schools, Jeffrey worked to find transportation and energy efficiencies to protect the district's instructional offerings during a time of tight state budgets and a rapidly expanding student population. Now, many of us in this area know Loudoun County. It's an outer suburb of Washington, D.C., and it's seen its enrollment grow from about 40,000 students in 2003 to more than 68,000 students in the current year. For his work in Loudoun County, Jeffrey was given the 2012 International Eagle Award by the Association of School Business Officials International. From the time he arrived in 2007, Jeffrey put his focus on helping the district cope with its growth. During the past half dozen years, 13 schools have been built, 9 more have been renovated, and 5 additions have been constructed. By building schools more sustainably and updating inefficient systems at older schools, Loudoun County saved more than $28 million during Jeffrey's tenure from January 2007 to this past December. He advises school district officials to regularly audit all their facilities systems, heating and cooling, water, electrical, transportation, food, and groundskeeping among them. Jeffrey's career came full circle this past year, and he started a new job as the Chief Operating Officer in the neighboring 181,000 plus student district in Fairfax County. It's the largest district in Virginia and one where he first worked in education as a senior school budget analyst. Jeffrey, for your leadership in smartly managing student enrollment growth and all that comes with it, we honor you. Thank you very much. I have to make sure I don't have a video here. The first order of business for Mary Ronan, as the acting superintendent of the Cincinnati school system 4 years ago, was making big changes at more than a dozen of the city's lowest performing elementary schools. Many had been plagued by stagnant student achievement for more than a quarter century. 4 years later, none of those 16 schools that Mary and her team targeted for special interventions is stuck in what Ohio calls academic emergency. That's the lowest rung of its accountability system, and the label that most shared before the turnaround. A dozen of those 16 schools have reached the level of continuous improvement. That's the mid-level rating, and others have gone on to be rated effective or even excellent. Mary first started working in the district in 1976 as a middle school math and science teacher. By the time she was named superintendent in 2008, she had served more than 30 years in the Queen City and knew it inside and out. This is a quote from Mary. "I think it made me more effective. You understand your community. You understand the politics. I've developed relationships over the years. I wasn't groping around to find out who the power brokers were." As Julie Sellers, the president of the Cincinnati Federation of Teachers, says, "There's nothing we don't do in Cincinnati. These are the best urban high-poverty schools in the country. Mary, for your leadership in turning around low-performing schools, please join me. Mary Rowan. I'm from Louisville, right up the river.
I believe strongly that you as a superintendent had to be at the right place at the right time to lead in the right way. And I believe in St. Paul, and I came to be at the right place in the right time.
Serving more kids, yeah, definitely. To add the priority.
I call an achievement gap, we have a leadership gap, we have a community gap, a teaching gap. Everybody else, as well as the students, have a significant impact in the life of the student. So then it's taking the responsibility that our job is to educate all kids.
I love that.
So we have been working on how to ensure that every classroom teacher is the best teacher for those students. If I don't have a very good teacher in front of my students, those students are not going to learn. So the expectation from me is that every principal, assistant principal, or the head of a program needs to be very sure what's going on in the classroom.
However, well, no, remember I.
You know, sometimes it takes another person to give you a tip of how could you teach this for you to go, I never thought of that way. And that could open the mind to many kids to learn it faster. It's about understanding that we don't know what we don't know. And that's how I feel that I have an insight about the immigrant life that maybe other people don't have. There are not many superintendents that they had my background, and it should be a lot because we have a lot of Latinos in this country and we don't have a lot of Latino superintendents. And our kids need to see role models. I have grown tremendously in this job to understand that race matters. And when we start as a country talking about that race matters, I think is going to be a better opportunity for our kids. The minute that we can have an equity in everything we do in St. Paul, I do believe that I will feel like I accomplished my mission.
So you all have already met Valaria, but let me add a few other points. The St. Paul School District enrolls 39,000 pre-K through 12 students, 45% of whom, we've heard this, are ESL students, fluent in languages as diverse as Amharic, Spanish, Somali, Hmong, and Karen. As the director of the district's ELL program from 1998 to 2006, Valaria Silva oversaw one of the most dramatic shakeups of instruction for ELL learners, ELL students, in any major school system at the time. Now, Valaria says she plans to spend her career in St. Paul, a city she found difficult to embrace 27 years ago, given her lack of English skills at the time, and you ready for this? The region's harsh winters. She's reminded of that experience often, she says, as the district continues to enroll new waves of immigrant students, most recently from Burma. This is a quote from Valaria. I don't make any decision without thinking about being the parent of one of those newcomers. The responsibility for these students belongs to all of us. Valaria, for your leadership in English language learner education. Thank you.
can't imagine doing our job anymore today without this kind of technology.
Yeah, Durwood Thomas. Bus number 90.
With the way people want information right away, we're able to give them that information right away with our technology.
Light is burned out.
What we've done in the past 4 or 5 years is we've implemented a GPS program where we have GPS installed on every one of our buses, and we've installed digital cameras on every vehicle. GPS as an example, if I have a parent call me up and say that the bus just drove by, but in the past we used to have to do what was called an all call on the radio. We'd call a bus and say, hey, are there any buses in the area of Broad and High that can go pick up Steve? Now we can just do a simple right click and find the closest 5 buses and say, hey, bus 250, go pick up Steve, take him to school.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
And that saves us money and time, and it makes the customer happy.
In 2010, the 51,000 student Columbus district considered cutting busing of high school students as a money-saving measure, just as most of the other large districts in the state had done. But rather than do away with busing for all older students altogether, Steve Simmons eliminated most bus stops and used neighborhood schools as centralized stops for older students. The change cut the number of high school bus stops from nearly 1,500 to 230 and pared about $2 million from the district's $50 million a year transportation budget. Steve, he's president of the Ohio Association for Pupil Transportation, suggests that transportation could help each other much more than they're doing now by working together. Professionally, he's also expanded his reach by serving as a board member of the National Association of Pupil Transportation and as the chairman of the Columbus Transportation and Pedestrian Commission. And that's an entity that reviews transit proposals before they go to the city council. In Steve's words, if you need help, you need to call your peers. People try to fix problems themselves when there are probably 1,000 people who fixed it before. Steve, for your leadership in transportation services, and as I've come to call him, Trey, or Trois, for Steve. Where's Judy? I gotta be able to look. Judy. Judy Sorrell is a special educator who has notches on her belt as a teacher, a consultant, and administrator. In 1979, she established one of the first regional special education programs in Virginia, the Shenandoah Valley Regional Program, and continues to serve as its director. That's over 33 years in that job. Her curiosity and passion have led to changes locally and statewide on how educational interpreters are certified, how children with autism are educated, and most recently, how children with traumatic brain injury are taught. Judy is especially lauded for her work in the autism arena. More than a decade ago, she saw that parents across Virginia were suing districts because the schools just weren't meeting the needs of their children with autism. Many districts struggled or failed altogether to provide the right kind of therapy and education to such students, namely in the form of something called, or an approach called applied behavior analysis. Her approach was to team up with a local autism services agency and embed agency staff in districts where they could model techniques for teachers and therapists. The 6 districts in this regional program began in 2004 with 1 embedded analyst. Now there are 10, including some who were teachers in the districts, and who have since become certified in the behavior analysis approach. For Judy, building local capacity is really critical. She adds, I think it's been a lifesaver for our local school divisions. Judy, for your leadership in special education, we honor you. Dennis Stockdale arrived as the superintendent in Garrett, Indiana, 6 years ago, when the Garrett Kaiser Butler School District seemed as remotely connected to 21st century learning as the rural landscape might suggest. Today, there you are. Today, all 3 schools in the 1,800 student district have been equipped with Wi-Fi. Elementary school students use their own iPads in class. Older school students take their MacBook laptops home every day. And a state-of-the-art, totally wired high school opened this school year. Dennis says he's also made sure that all students in the system, 73% of whom qualify for subsidized meals, have equitable access to the internet outside of school hours. Dennis emphasized professional development as the devices rolled out. Now teachers are curating curricula and creating their own electronic resource libraries to promote individualized learning. Rather than grouped by grade level for early grades math, students are grouped by learning level and outcomes, which can change daily or weekly. Dennis believes that technology is not a replacement for students. Excuse me. Wow. Dennis believes, these are his words, not mine, technology is not a replacement for teachers. It's a tool and a resource for efficiency and educational delivery. Teachers can be more because they have that tool. In addition, the district wired the community center in Garrett with Wi-Fi, so students have access there as well. The local library is wired, and in the new high school, part of which opened this school year, administrators will designate a wireless area that will remain open until 10 on school nights. Dennis, for your leadership in increasing your district and your students' digital access. How are we doing? Okay. So now, that's 16 leaders to learn from. So I'd like to ask all the leaders to learn from we've recognized here today to rise, turn around and face the audience, and let's have one more round of applause for these folks. Thank you all very much.